less than half of Gen Z Americans are thriving. That is among the lowest rates of any generation in the United States at the moment, and far lower than millennials at the same age. A crazy 80% of Gen Z adults feel lonely, which is way higher than any other age groups. Gen Z is about twice as likely as other generations to have depression, and it's become the most pessimistic and not trusting generation ever. So Gen Zs are those born between 1997 and 2012. This is a generation raised in the digital age, navigating a world of crazy connectivity and so many options. Yet beneath the surface, there's a major sense of unease, a feeling of discontentment that seems to permeate the collective psyche of Generation Z. But why? What lies at the heart of all this pessimism and unhappiness? Personally, I think there are two major factors at play here. The first one is our screens, which consume so much of our time, and unlike millennials who remember a time without them, Gen Z has a much harder time understanding what a life offline is. And the second one is the pandemic. See, whether in high school or college, these years help you develop socially, and to take a chunk of those years out to sit in your room on Zoom, well, I can imagine that would really impact your mental health. But let's see what the data is saying, and let's start with perfectionism. Almost 6 in 10 Gen Zs think that they can, quote, easily make a life as an influencer, and that sets up an unrealistic expectation. This generation has grown up in an era dominated by social media, where curated images of flawless lives and unattainable standards have flooded screens on an hourly basis. So from Instagram influencers with picture-perfect lives to YouTube stars that seem to have this charmed existence, well, that pressure can often make people feel overwhelmed. In fact, studies show that Gen Z is the most perfectionist generation yet, with unrealistic expectations of both themselves and others. A study published in the Psychological Bulletin found that the perfectionism among college students has risen significantly over the past 3 decades. And of course, that's driven by societal pressures, but also the rise of social media. This constant comparison culture creates a lot of feelings of inadequacy and fuels a sense of dissatisfaction. And as a result, many members of Gen Z find themselves caught in a cycle of striving for unattainable perfection, only to fall short time and time again, because the second you open your phone, you see someone who is working harder than you and making more money than you. But it's not just personal pressures that are weighing heavy on Gen Z's shoulders. They're also coming of age in a world that is truly grappling with pressing global changes like climate change, some political instability, and a lot of economic uncertainty as well. In fact, climate change is a big deal for Gen Z. According to a survey conducted by the American Psychological Association, climate change is actually now a significant source of stress for young people, with nearly 2 in 3 expressing feelings of anxiety or despair about the issue.
You probably use free public Wi-Fi a lot, it's convenient. But apparently this can open us up to a lot of problems like identity theft or data leaks. A hacker can literally position themselves between your device and the public Wi-Fi to eavesdrop on your traffic and steal your credit card numbers and passwords. So I recently started using the Aura app. Aura's privacy assistant removes all your data from mining sites, and they even send you automatic updates when there is suspicious activity. With its virtual public network, you can connect to any public Wi-Fi without fear. Since you're a viewer of my channel, you can get a free 14-day trial, and they'll do a scan and you can see right now if your personal information has been leaked online or not. You'll find out instantly. Click below to get your free trial and stay away from hackers. Now back to the video.
Another thing happening, and I see this every day, is the paradox of choice. It means because you have so many choices available to you, you're stressed out by the fact that you have to actually make the right choice. See, in a world brimming with choices, Gen Z finds themselves paralyzed by decision fatigue, whether it's selecting a college or a career path, or even if they should go to college, since let's be honest, what you learn in those 4 years may not actually be applicable for the duration of your career in certain industries. Things are changing rapidly. And research shows that having too many choices can lead to decision paralysis, which leaves people feeling dissatisfied and uncertain about their chosen path. Now, this next one is a big one, and I think it might be actually the biggest reason why Gen Z is struggling. It's the loneliness epidemic. Despite living in an age of hyperconnectivity, Gen Z struggles more than any generation with feelings of loneliness and isolation. See, the rise of social media has paradoxically led to increased feelings of loneliness amongst young people because virtual connectivity connections just don't satisfy their innate need for genuine human connection. And phone addictions have just made it harder to unplug and form a human-to-human connection. I saw this firsthand when I started my career at MTV. At the time, I needed to get high school kids cleared to be in the documentary. We would sit in our office in New York and try to call them, but they literally could not take a phone call. They didn't know how. They were only comfortable to send texts. And this is something Millennial Z didn't have the freedom to not talk on a phone. We still remember a time when all we could do was talk on a phone to our friend's mom, to our grandma. Just the fact that we had to call someone to talk to them, which is kind of a skill if you think about it that protects you against loneliness. A study conducted by the University of Pittsburgh found that frequent use of social media platforms was associated with increased feelings of loneliness and depression among young adults. The curated nature of social media feeds can create a false sense of intimacy, and that can lead to feelings of inadequacy and isolation. But social media has taken a turn toward being more relatable recently, and I think that's a good thing, especially because of TikTok, which has driven this change. Instead of just showing off the highlight reel of our lives, people are starting to share more real stuff, the messy, the imperfect, and the downright awkward, like the time you failed or embracing flaws, and there's a refreshing authenticity that is making its way into our feeds. And I think this is a good thing because it lets everyone know that we're not alone in our struggles. In conclusion, the happiness and pessimism pervading Gen Z's collective consciousness are the result of a complex interplay of societal, environmental, and personal factors. Between the crazy expectations that Gen Z faces, the big global issues weighing on their minds, and the overwhelming number of choices that they have to make, it's kind of no wonder that they're feeling a bit down. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. There might be some light at the end of the tunnel here. People are starting to talk more openly about mental health, and that is a step in the right direction. Millennials never did that. In fact, mental health was quite taboo for most of us until recently. The fact that it's now become okay to not be okay might be a silver lining for this generation. But I want to know, what do you think? What is to blame here? Because there's always been issues for every generation. Millennials had the great financial crisis of 2008, and in theory, things should be improving. So let me know, what do you think is the problem here? And most importantly, what needs to be done? While you're at it, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next video.